Hey guys, it's Cameron again, and I am here to review Garden Spells as well as its sequel, First Frost, both by Sarah Addison Allen. This is a drama slash magical realism kind of book that takes place in a small town in North Carolina, and it follows a family called the Waverlys. The Waverlys are very well known in the town in that they're very mysterious, and each of them have their own abilities. For instance, the story starts off with one of the main characters of the story whose name is Claire. She lives in the Waverly house that got passed down to her from her grandmother. Claire is well known for making food using the flowers from the big garden that is behind the house, and she can use this food that she cooks to kind of influence the person who's eating it in certain ways. The Waverlys are basically witches, just in a more subtle way than you would expect in most witch stories. So Claire lives alone in the Waverly house, even though she also has a younger sister named Sydney. But Sydney left when she was just old enough to leave town and go off on her own. Now Sydney has her own daughter named Bay, and she is in a relationship that is kind of bad, so she decides to take her daughter and get out of that place that she was living in and come back home to the Waverly house. So basically the story is about Claire and Sydney, both of these sisters, coming back together and reuniting to reform these bonds that they could have as sisters. It's a touching story and I enjoyed it very, very, very much. It is one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. Now I will talk about the characters. Claire is a fantastic character. At first she isn't the most likable person, but you can tell that she is just having a little bit of a rough time, and she's alone and she kind of wants to be alone. She's just kind of done having people in her life because she doesn't feel like she can trust anybody. Even though she's kind of hard-headed and not really that likable at first, I feel like a lot of people can relate to the way that she feels. I know I sure could while I was reading it. I have been in that situation many times where I felt like I could not trust people. Sydney is very much in the same kind of place. She is in a very dark place in her life, and as much as she does not want to come back to her small town upbringing, she kind of has no choice. She has to reunite with Claire, and this is a growing experience for both of them. They're both great characters and very realistic and relatable, and it's nice to see them come together and kind of help heal each other after all of these years. There are also a lot of secondary characters that I enjoyed reading about as well. Most of them are very likable. There are a few that are completely atrocious and I hated, but they're there for you to hate. For instance, there's the character of Emma Mattinson, who is terrible. She is this very prissy, rich housewife who doesn't get off her butt and do anything with her life other than stir up drama. Everybody kind of knows somebody like that, but this woman is like extreme. In a way, she kind of reminded me of Jacqueline from The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Do you want a water? No, thanks.
She's just a spoiled rich girl, and I love to hate her. Now on to the magical realism aspect of this book. I have never really read a magical realism novel before, so this was a first time for me, and I loved it. I loved how the real life drama kind of weaves in with this magical aspect that's very subtle, but it's also very obvious. For instance, in the garden behind the Waverly house, there is a tree that has been there as long as anybody can remember. It's a magical tree. It has a personality of its own. It likes to throw its apples at people, and it is said that if anybody eats the apples, that they will see some big event in their life, whether that is good or it's bad. That subtle magical aspect of this book really added to the coziness of the story. Overall, I had to give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It is just a magnificent novel, and I cannot recommend it enough. And just recently, First Frost, the sequel to Garden Spells, was released. It's still following the same characters in their life and what's going on now in their lives. Sydney's daughter, Bay, is now a teenager, so there's some drama there at school and at home. And there is also a mysterious man who has come to town that each of the Waverlys keep catching glimpses of throughout the town, and whenever the Waverlys see him, they can't help but get a bad feeling. For some reason, he kind of reminded me of the old preacher guy in Poltergeist 2.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
That is possible. I get around. I love getting around.
I'm not sure why I thought that. He's not really described like that in the book, but the creepy, mysterious atmosphere that he gives off in the first part of the book kind of made me think of that. Overall, I like this book almost as much as the first book. Not quite. There was a little bit that was missing in terms of the plot. It didn't feel quite as fresh as the first book did, but overall it still held the same charm that the first book had, and I was still really engrossed in what was happening. So overall, I wound up giving First Frost by Sarah Addison Allen 4 out of 5 stars. So there you have it, folks. That is my review of Garden Spells and First Frost by Sarah Addison Allen. If you have read these books, Tell me down below in the comments what you thought. Thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.